Okay, so yeah, so that's just the programme that I've outlined for this evening. And then on to the next slide. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of information about where we work. So the Royal Hospital for Neuro-disability is in Putney in southwest London, and the hospital was founded in 1854. And the hospital is an independent medical charity that provides rehabilitation and long-term care for people with complex neurological disabilities. And those disabilities can be caused by things such as strokes, traffic accidents, and also progressive neurological diseases such as motor neuron disease and Huntington's disease as well. So our speech therapy team is comprised of 12 speech therapists and 2 speech and language therapy technical instructors who help to support the work that we do. And the services that we have at the hospital are a specialist brain injury rehabilitation service, a specialist nursing home for people requiring long-term care, and also specialist services including ventilator units, a Huntington's disease unit, and a neurobehavioral rehabilitation unit as well. So those are the services that we offer. So seeing as we can't obviously see any of you in the audience, I thought it would be good just to get an idea of who is in the audience this evening. So we've got a poll which should hopefully come up on your screen. So it would be interesting just to know kind of what stage you're at currently in considering speech and language therapy as a career. So whether you're still in school doing GCSEs or maybe A-levels, or perhaps you're doing an undergraduate or postgraduate degree, or maybe looking for a career change, perhaps. Okay, thank you. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Okay, so just to go on to talking about what is a speech and language therapist. So I'm sure some of you have a little bit of an idea, but we'll just go through generally kind of what a speech therapist is and the different areas that we can work in, because there's lots of different areas that you can specialize in. So the next slide has a definition from the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists, and that is that speech and language therapists provide treatment, support, and care for children and adults who have difficulties with communication or with eating, drinking, and swallowing. So that's a broad definition of the scope of work that we carry out. Our title is often shortened or abbreviated to Speechy, or sometimes SLT, and in some places SALT. So those are some terms that you might have heard of, or that you'll certainly hear if you do go into the line of work. So on to the next slide. So speech and language therapists are allied health professionals. So we work with parents, carers, as well as other professionals in sort of a multidisciplinary team. As of 2020, there were around 17,000 practicing speech therapists in the UK, working in a whole variety of settings. And the title of speech and language therapist is protected by law. So as speech and language therapists, we have to maintain our professional registration with the Health and Care Professions Council. And you need to keep re-registering and maintaining your professional registration to be protected by law. So on to the next slide. So just to outline some of the settings that you can work in as a speech therapist. So there's a big variety. You can work in the education system, working in either mainstream schools or special needs schools. You can work in forensic settings, such as courtrooms, prisons, and young offenders institutions. Within health, you can work in the community, so community health centres, as part of GP surgeries, for example. You can work in hospitals on a variety of different wards, medical wards, surgical wards, critical care wards, for example, as well as outpatient departments as well. So people who come in for outpatient speech and language therapy. You can work in children's centres, all types of day centres. You can work in clients' own homes, providing therapy in their own home, as well as nursing homes or care homes, wherever that individual may reside. And you can work in independent practice as well, in private practice, as well as working for the NHS or different sort of care boards. And then you can work in universities as well. So you can work, for example, as a lecturer, helping to teach speech and language therapy courses, or you can choose to work in more of a kind of a research field as well. So there's a whole breadth of settings that you can work in as a speech therapist. So it can be a very varied career, and you can very much choose your specialism and also change specialism as well, and sort of try different areas out. So that's definitely a good thing about speech therapy. You're not kind of limited to one particular kind of client group. In terms of who we provide care to, so we, as a speech therapist, you can provide care all the way from young babies on, for example, neonatal wards with feeding and swallowing difficulties. You can work with children of all ages with speech, communication, language and swallowing disorders. You can work with adults adults of all ages, so young adults all the way to the elderly, including those at the end of their life with, again, speech, communication, language and swallowing difficulties. And we also do a lot of work with families as well and caregivers, so providing education and training to those who help to care for the patients, those who live with people we work with. So it's not just the person themselves who has speech, language or communication difficulties or swallowing difficulties. It's working with those around the individual as well, and providing that education and training. So in terms of working with children, if you specialise with children, there's again a whole range of areas you can work in or specialise in. So you may work with children with autism or cleft palate, those with learning difficulties like dyslexia, dysfluency, so stammering or stuttering, children with hearing impairments, those with language delay or language disorders, or speech sound difficulties, for example, those with learning disabilities, selective mutism, and voice disorders is another one as well. So children who have voice difficulties. So there's a whole range of conditions that you may work in as a paediatric speech therapist. When working with children, again, you're working with lots of people around that child, so with lots of other people who are also involved in that child's care. So depending on the setting, you may work with teachers of the deaf, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, the child's teacher, teaching assistant, support workers, psychologists, perhaps doctors, nurses, audiologists, music therapists, as well as social workers, Senkos if you work in a school setting, perhaps dietitians if you're working with children with feeding or swallowing difficulties. And again, you're working also with the family and the friends of that child as well, so those who are very much involved in that child's life. I think on the next slide, we have a link to a video. So it's just a short video which kind of showcases the work of a paediatric.
So I'm the mum of Patrick. By the age of 2, I realised that there was actually quite a problem that we needed to address. Because he wasn't talking. It's a very basic thing of not being able to communicate his needs. It's caused a lot of frustration for him, a lot of anger from him. It made things very difficult in the house for us. I struggled with how to deal with it until I had health and speech and language therapy.
Speech and language therapists can work to support children with speech, language and communication needs in a range of different ways. Sometimes we work with children in one-to-one sessions, we work in groups. We try to make them as fun and as exciting and motivating for that child. So we use play a lot in our therapy sessions because play is children's work. Children learn a lot through play when they're exploring, and it's a great opportunity to give them language to support their communication skills.
We often start with the introduction of one activity, followed by a different activity which is working on the same target word, so a different game. And then we may finish it with a story or a song just to kind of enclose everything that we've been doing. Parents are invited, parents are given information about their child's level, and then we work with them to help write our targets and goals.
And follow with maybe an activity which we then talk about how the parent can do that throughout the week with the child, making sure that the parent or the adult that's working with the child knows what they're going to continue doing after our session's finished.
Well, they enjoy the sessions in school so much because they're really fun, they're really hands-on, the children can get involved. It's quite exciting for them to come out of class and get that kind of one-to-one attention. And we can see the improvements over time. We can see their speech developing.
Speech and language therapy has enabled my children to reach goals that I never thought that they would reach. I can see the progress, I can see, because I get reports, so we can see the difference. They're the angels sent to me from heaven.
Ever since starting the sessions, I've seen a week-on-week improvement in Patrick. He's rapidly improved his speech. The skills that it gave to me as a parent have been invaluable.
It's really important that people come to their speech and language appointments because in the sessions we're showing them activities that they can carry out to support that child's communication skills.
And this means that we're able to make a lot of change by working really closely with parents, carers, nurseries and schools, because communication is everybody's business and happens all day, every day.
Starting school is an exciting step for every child, but it can feel daunting too.
Thanks, Anna. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea about the work of a speech therapist with children, helping to support them with speech, language and communication difficulties. So we'll talk a little bit about working with adults now. So within the adult specialism, again, you can work with a whole range of conditions and presentations. So you can work with people who have had acquired neurological events such as stroke or traumatic brain injuries. You can work with individuals with progressive neurological conditions like Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis or dementia, for example. You may work with individuals with a head and neck or throat cancer diagnosis, those with hearing impairments, learning difficulties or learning disabilities, people with mental health difficulties or physical disabilities. Again, you can work with individuals with stammering and also voice problems in adults as well. So yeah, different voice disorders. Again, you're not just working with the individual, you're working with all those people around the individual as well, doing lots of collaborative working. So you're working alongside often a physiotherapist in a hospital setting, psychologists, dietitians again, when you're supporting those with swallowing difficulties, occupational therapists, doctors, nurses and carers, perhaps employers, if that person is of working age, liaising with their employer after, for example, a stroke, if they're looking to go back to work. You might be working with interpreters if the person you're working with doesn't speak English or it's not their first language. You may work alongside music therapists, social workers, which we very much do at the RHN. And also, again, working alongside the family and friends of that individual and helping to support them and providing training and education and helping them to learn about the person's difficulties and how to support them. So we do lots of collaborative working as a speech therapist, as you can see. And on to the next slide. So I think, again, we've just got a video link here. So I think this video showcases the typical work of a speech therapist in a hospital setting. So just to give you an idea of what that day or typical day might involve when you're working with adults.
Sweep the streets I used to own. I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes, listen as the crowd would sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. 1 minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered that my castle stand upon pillars of salt and pillars of sand. I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, once you've gone it was never an honest word. And that was when I ruled the world. It was the wicked and wild wind, blew down the doors to let me in, shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I'd become. Revolutionaries wait for my head on a silver plate, just a puppet on a lonely string. Oh, who would ever want to be king? I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name, never an honest word, but that was when I ruled the world. was when I ruled the world.
Oh, hang on, you're muted still. Sorry, there we go. Thanks, Anna. Yes, hopefully that video kind of gave you an idea of the wide-ranging role of a speech therapist within a hospital setting and the different specialisms you can work in, from those, for example, who have had a stroke with communication and swallowing difficulties, to those who maybe have a laryngectomy due to head and neck cancer, coming in for outpatient appointments. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a good overview of the scope of an adult speech and language therapist. So some key statistics. So why is speech and language therapy important? Why is the work we do important? 20% of the UK population may experience communication difficulties at some point in their lives. 80% of children with social, emotional, and mental health needs have significant language difficulties. 40% of people who have a stroke will go on to have swallowing difficulties as a result. 33% of stroke survivors also have communication difficulties. 60% of young offenders can have difficulties with speech, language, and communication. So overall, it's quite a significant proportion of society will at some point in their lives experience difficulties with speech, language, communication, or swallowing. So on to the next slide. So again, just to talk a little bit about the day in the life of a speech therapist, certainly in our line of work at the Royal Hospital for Neuro-disability. So day to day, you will likely be carrying out treatment sessions. Those might be initial assessments, ongoing assessments, or therapy sessions. And they may be individual, or they may be joint assessments, joint sessions with other therapists, for example, physiotherapist or occupational therapist or music therapist. We also do group sessions as well. So we do lots of group therapy. You may be planning therapy for your patients. So devising treatment plans, intervention plans. You'll be doing note writing as well. So after kind of every episode of intervention, you'll write a clinical note entry for that patient. And those notes will be accessible to the wider team involved in their care. You may be writing reports, and usually they will be sort of multidisciplinary reports. So you'll be contributing to reports that other disciplines are also contributing to. So everyone involved in that person's care will write a summary of their treatment and their goals and how the patient's doing, and their presentation. You will attend meetings as well, so team meetings, for example, kind of whole speech and language therapy team meetings, as well as maybe smaller team meetings. Week to week, you'll be going to multidisciplinary case discussions, so discussing the patient's care, their progress, how they're doing, any sort of key updates, and sort of problem solving, and sort of discussing kind of any issues, and that sort of thing. As a speech therapist, you may be involved in carrying out capacity assessments as well. So at the RHN, we do lots of capacity assessments, which are always decision specific. So you might be supporting somebody with a decision around where they're going to after hospital, where they're going to be discharged to, or potentially doing capacity assessments around future kind of feeding decisions and that sort of thing. Outcome measures as well. So another part of the role is recording outcome measures. Essentially recording a person's progress, how they're doing along the course of their journey in hospital, progress they've made with particular therapies, and that kind of helps to kind of inform their ongoing care and different kind of treatment and therapy approaches. And then on to the next slide. Other other things that you'll do as a speech therapist are, so I've talked a lot about kind of family, working with families and carers, so liaising with people around the individual, updating them on their progress, for example, sort of being a point of contact, answering kind of questions regarding their care, involving them sometimes in therapy sessions and assessments as well. Service development is a large part of our role as well. So doing service development projects or initiatives, finding ways to improve the service, finding any areas that could be improved. You can also get involved in research as well. So researching a particular therapy approach, for example, or kind of a particular kind of condition that you're working with. So there's always lots of opportunities to get involved in research. You'll be carrying out risk assessments as well for patients, for example, relating to their swallowing difficulties. Be engaged in supervision as well. So everybody will receive clinical supervision sort of once a month. So that's an opportunity to kind of talk about your own goals and your own progress, any kind of areas of difficulty, and sort of think about objectives that you'd like to work towards, and sort of your professional and personal development as well. And then there's a requirement to engage in CPD as well, so continuous professional development. And that might look like attending training, different training courses, listening to webinars, sort of carrying out training yourself within the service or to kind of the wider team, or reading relevant journal articles, going to journal club and that sort of thing as well. So a key part of the role is kind of always learning and always developing, which is kind of a kind of a really positive thing about the role, is that you're constantly learning and there's always opportunities to develop, and kind of find areas that you're kind of interested in and progress in those areas. So when you're thinking about speech and language therapy as a career, some questions to ask yourself are: do you enjoy listening to people, communicating with people, communicating with people from different backgrounds, kind of different walks of life? Generally working with people. Do you enjoy working as part of a team? So as well as kind of having individual work to do, a large part of it is working collaboratively with a wider team. So think about whether that's something that you enjoy, maybe from previous experiences or previous work roles. Do you enjoy working with other people towards kind of shared goals, and working collaboratively? Do you enjoy problem solving? So as a speech therapist, you're always kind of problem solving when you're working with patients, kind of teasing out where the difficulties are and what you can do to kind of support them with different difficulties they may have. So think about, do you like that aspect, constantly kind of problem solving and thinking of kind of new ideas and that sort of thing. As I said, learning and developing is a large part of the role as well. So always kind of using opportunities to learn and develop personally and professionally in different clinical areas. So think about, is that something that you'd enjoy within a career? So that constant kind of learning and developing kind of element. There's lots of opportunity to be creative as well as a speech and language therapist, whether it's with planning and making resources for the patient, for example, or with thinking about service development and that sort of thing. So have a think about whether you enjoy kind of that creativity aspect as well. Do you like being responsible? So would you enjoy being responsible for the needs of a patient and responsible for aspects of their care? And then, so some of you mentioned, coming from education backgrounds or language or sciences, or wanting a kind of a combination of those things. So speech therapy is a really good combination of, and again, depending on which area you specialize in as well, but it can encompass kind of those education elements, science, obviously particularly biology, and you do a lot of anatomy and physiology when you're studying speech therapy, and also the kind of the language, the kind of linguistic side as well, phonetics. So there's lots of different strands to speech therapy, but if you generally enjoy languages, but also kind of sciences, particularly biology, or you like the education side of things as well, then speech therapy is kind of is a good kind of combination, a good mix of all of those elements. So have a think about are those subjects that you enjoy, that you'd like to kind of learn more about, and if so, then speech therapy might be a good option for you. If you want to kind of read up a little bit more about the career, you can look on the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists website. They have lots of good information there about the different areas and specialisms that you can work in. There's a podcast as well from the Royal College that you could listen to as well to get a little bit more of an insight into the work of a speech therapist. You can have a look at the different training programs on offer, so the degree courses, apprenticeships, and have a look at different courses and how they're sort of set up. So you could have a look on websites of particular universities and particular degree programs, for example. Feel free to make contact with your local speech therapy team, whether it's just to have a chat to somebody about the career or kind of the setting that they work in, if you want to know a little bit more about particular settings that you might be interested in working in. You can see if there's opportunities to shadow local teams as well, whether it's hospital wards, for example, or maybe day centres or schools. You can kind of just make contact and see what opportunities might be available to you, and that's a really good idea to get kind of first-hand experience of what the job kind of would look like maybe day to day in a particular setting. So see if there's opportunities to maybe shadow a speech therapist. Also reach out to kind of independent and private speech therapists as well. So that's always an option. I remember shadowing a private speech therapist with her clients kind of who came to her home. So that might be an option as well. So reach out to different places, maybe both NHS and maybe private speech therapists in your local area, and maybe see if there's opportunities to do any shadowing as well. And that will give you kind of the best idea of how the role kind of actually looks like. And then in terms of becoming a speech therapist, all speech therapists must complete a degree course and register with the Health and Care Professions Council to be eligible to work in the UK. Speech therapy courses combine sort of both theory, so academic work, classroom-based learning, lectures, seminars, and then also practical placements as well. So each degree course will have a minimum kind of requirement in terms of placement hours, which then means that you're essentially, you can qualify as a speech therapist and you have the required hours. And those placements will likely be in different settings. So there'll be a requirement to do a minimum number of hours in paediatrics as well as adults. But those placements could be, as I've mentioned, they could be anywhere from schools to day centres to hospitals to kind of youth offenders institutions. So you should, on the course, you'll get kind of at least a good mix between adults and paediatrics, but those placements might be in a variety of different settings and might depend on the area in which you study as well, and what clinical placements are available in your area. But usually you get a good mix and see a range of settings and different patient caseloads. For more information, you could email the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists on those emails listed there. There's obviously the Royal College website, which has lots of information available. So I'd encourage you to have a look on there and read up on anything in more detail. And then there's the Health and Care Professions Council website as well, which might give you some more information as well. There's also the option to work as a speech and language therapy assistant. So that's where you're working with qualified speech and language therapists and supporting clients and patients to develop their speech, language or swallowing skills. You're helping to prepare kind of therapy materials, and obviously, and you're getting kind of a broad range of experience that way. So some people work as a speech therapy assistant for a while first to build up experience, and then go into training as a speech therapist, for example. So there's always that option as well to look at speech and language therapy assistant posts, which would, again, depending on the setting, give you a good idea into what the role looks like in that particular setting, and obviously gives you lots of good skills and experience as well, to then maybe go on to applying to a speech and language therapy degree course. There's lots of different kind of routes into the profession. I know Amy's going to talk a little bit more about applications and things next.